When my face started peeling, I blamed the new face wash my cousin had recommended. Despite its high ratings on best of lists and glowing reviews from TikTok influencers, it was clear that my skin was reacting badly to it. I liked the results from the few times I used it, but I couldn't risk further damage, so I threw the cleanser in the trash. However, a week later, my face became much worse instead of getting better. The texture of my skin was scaly and rough, like a snake's. I racked my mind for a possible cause but came up blank. It looked revolting, and the itching was unbearable. My constant scratching drew blood, and the underside of my nails was clogged with dead skin. Everything came to a head the day I got my braids done. I spent hours at the stylist's. Finally, she dipped my braids into boiling water and wrapped them in a towel to prevent burning me. She gasped when she uncovered my head, and I felt lightheaded as my scalp throbbed, my heart pounding painfully. "What's wrong?" I asked, but she didn't respond. "What's wrong?" I demanded as my vision began to burn and blur. I snatched her mirror and saw my reflection. The sight was so horrifying I thought my head would implode. Nearly every braid had fallen out, though a few clung to my scalp by bloody, viscous threads. My fingers trembled as they dug into my skull, feeling like they were sinking into decaying fruit. The skin at my hairline had started to erode, flaking like Brill parchment. My skin wasn't just peeling, it was dissolving. Raw, crimson flesh exposed veins and tendons that struggled to keep up with the rapid decay. Dark blood dripped from my rotting forehead, pooling at the tip of my nose before dripping onto the mirror. More blood followed, splattering thickly, a torrent of red. I slammed the mirror down and fled to my car, shaking so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. I ignored the stylist's texts and calls demanding payment. Was she out of her fucking mind? When I got home, I locked myself in the bathroom. My scalp was a roadmap of raw flesh and patches of skin. Every small bit of movement hurt, and I couldn't stop myself from rocking on the cool tile and crying. I wailed, screamed, and cursed even though the pain felt like it might kill me. As time went by, I deteriorated further. Painful boils bubbled across my cheeks and forehead, pulsating in rhythm with my racing heartbeat. Upon bursting, they released thick, yellow pus that oozed down my face like molten wax. The surrounding skin was blackened and peeled, exposing raw, bleeding tissue that wept a mixture of blood and infection. Confusion and fear gripped me. All I had done was buy a cleanser, now I was a monster. Was desiring beauty a crime? My face was a battlefield of decay. I was the embodiment of grotesque. My eyes, swollen and red, were now tinged with a sickly yellow hue, reptilian. Thick mucus gathered at the corners, dripping in long, stringy threads, clinging to my ragged eyelids. Staring into the mirror was triggering, and from it came a sudden, sharp memory from a week ago at my cousin's birthday party. There had been a woman there, a so-called spiritualist, who was undeniably a witch. My cousin had always been eccentric, even more so since her boyfriend vanished under mysterious circumstances. She had delved into mystical practices, spells, curses, rituals, so it wasn't surprising that this year, she hosted a séance led by a spiritualist, a witch. Séances are more than just a gateway to the dead. They peel back the layers of the world, revealing the truths we hide from, even the ones inside us, she intoned in a strange monotone. I had been skeptical, I admit. Bitch, crazy, I thought, lifting my wineglass to avoid her intense stare. She had cornered me for conversation in the easiest way possible. "You're beautiful," she had said. "Thank you, I'm aware," I replied. Then she had sat across from me during the séance, her eyes unblinking and black as voids, reflecting the flickering candlelight. I had been drunk and unsettled. Unnerved at her constant staring, I stuck out my tongue, and when that didn't yield the desired reaction, I flipped her off. That made her smile, and when she did, her lips stretched unnaturally wide to reveal jagged, blackened teeth. Her grin stretched wider and wider until a figure slowly emerged from the back of her gaping throat. The witch gagged and convulsed violently, and after vomiting, the pale, long-limbed figure collapsed into itself and became ash, which scattered across the table, twinkling like starlight. The figure rose with a twitch, its long black hair cascading down its back. When it turned to face me, I screamed, but no sound came out. T was a woman, a very dead woman. Her rotting skin hung loosely from her bones, putrid green slime oozed through her pores. Her hollow eyes leaked a dark liquid, and her mouth was a cavernous abyss filled with jagged teeth. She lurched toward me, her movements jerky. I wanted to run, but I was rooted to the ground. She tapped my forehead, sending a searing pain through my skull. Her touch burned trails into my flesh as she traced my eyes, outlined my lips, and then, with brutal strength, tore my face off. The world blurred into a blazing inferno as I screamed. The witch held my face, inspecting it with hollow eyes before pressing it against her skull. The skin fused to her bones, reshaping to fit her features. She turned to me, my face now hers, and smiled, a cruel, mocking grin. The pain was unbearable, a searing agony consuming every nerve as if my soul was being scorched. I screamed and tried to claw my way out of the inferno, but I was trapped. I died. I awoke lying on the floor, wet and cold. My face throbbed as though on fire. The room was too bright, the lights glaring down, revealing a distorted blur of faces hovering above. My cousin knelt beside me, her eyes wide with fear. The others stood around us, their expressions puzzled and concerned. "Esme, are you okay?" My cousin's trembling voice cut through the haze. She was terrified. I struggled to focus. "What happened?" I rasped, snatching the towel she held out to me. I swiped at my face, and the towel tinged dark pink. Wine. These bitches had thrown wine at me to wake me up. I would deal with that later because right now, a witch was on the loose, and she was on the hunt for bad bitches like myself. Panic surged as I scanned the room again. "Where is she?" I muttered, anger tightening my throat. "Where the fuck is she?" "Where is who?" my cousin asked, brow furrowing. I turned to her, desperation creeping into my voice. "The woman you hired to lead the seance? The spiritualist. The witch who handed me the wine. She told me I was beautiful." She wouldn't stop staring at me. "Where is she?" My cousin exchanged uneasy glances with her friends, then looked back at me. "Esme, there was no witch, no spiritualist, here. It was just us. Are you sure you're okay?" I shook my head. Confusion and fear tangled my thoughts. I reached into my pocket, pulling out my compact mirror. Flipping it open, I stared at my reflection, half expecting a monstrous distortion. But no, the face in the mirror was flawless, unmarked, beautiful, me. Had I imagined it? The memory of the witch felt so real, but doubt crept in. My cousin's words echoed. There was no one else, and for a terrifying moment, I wondered if she was right. "Esme," my cousin's voice was gentle, coaxing me back to reality. "There was no one else. Maybe you just imagined it. Perhaps you had too much to drink?" "No," I interrupted, hollow as I pushed past her to grab more wine. I poured and watched the crimson liquid swirling like blood. I downed it, the alcohol burning but failing to quell the fear gnawing at me. "The problem is I haven't drunk enough," I muttered. "God, remembrance is a bitch." My bathroom resembles a slaughterhouse. The sink overflows with a brackish mix of water and something darker. Clumps of hair cling to the porcelain, tangled in the drain. Mirror shards litter the floor, and everything is stained with my blood. My handprints are smeared across the walls, like desperate warnings from something wild, cornered, and feral. It stinks in here. The air is thick with the stench of rot, a suffocating cloud of decay. My skin, what's left of it, feels like it's wilting under the oppressive smell. Once upon a time, I was indescribably beautiful. Now, I'm a monster because a jealous witch stole my face. I'm tired of crying. I'm so fucking tired of crying. Haven't I said how much it hurts? My tears burn like acid, carving channels into my skin. Why bother? What's the point? My mind spirals. How am I even still alive? "Be done with it," a voice hissed, cold and convincing. "What else do you have to live for? Slit your throat, tear out your veins. Chew through your fucking wrists if you have to. Anything to be done, just be done. Doesn't bleeding out in a hot bath sound like paradise? The warmth, the release, knowing it's all over. No more mirrors, no more ugliness, just silence. Sweet, oblivious silence. But wait, what was it that witch had said? What had she told me? "You're beautiful." Thanks, I'm aware. No, not that as important as it is. Something else. Something about a veil? Seances are more than just a gateway to the dead. They peel back the layers of the world, revealing the truths we hide from, even the ones inside us, she'd said, her voice a monotone hum. Truths inside us. What did she mean by that? A realization bursts through the darkness, as ripe and putrid as a boil. Inner beauty? If my insides matched my outside, I'd be a horror worse than this. Suddenly, it all makes sense. I've been clinging to something that was never really mine. I was a hollow shell, pretty on the outside, rotten to the core. Why not own it? If the world's going to see me as a monster, then I'll be the most beautiful monster they've ever seen. I'll find that witch and demon and take back what's mine. No one fucks with me and walks away. But why stop there? I'll steal beauty from anyone who dares to cross my path. Their hair, their skin, their smiles, whatever I want. I'll carve it out and stitch it together like a patchwork quilt of stolen beauty. Because if I've learned anything, it's that beauty is power. And power is the only thing that matters. I close my eyes, savoring the plan forming in my mind. A smile spreads across my face, sharp enough to tear your throat out. I laugh. It starts as a chuckle, a ridiculous little hiccup of sound I can't quite suppress. But it quickly spirals into something wilder, something uncontrollable. The laughter comes in waves, harsh and guttural, until it claws its way out of my throat in a series of ragged, choking sobs. I'm on all fours as my body convulses. My stomach heaves violently, and I vomit, the acidic taste mixing with the coppery tang of blood. It's the greatest damn release in the world. The floor is slick beneath me, and thousands of my eyes stare back at me. I see my distorted face in each mirror shard, like some fucked up kaleidoscope. I am everywhere, yet I am nothing, just a broken thing in a room full of broken glass. I roll onto my back, feeling the sharp sting of glass pressing into my skin, and giggle helplessly as I stare up at the ceiling with a smile that feels too wide, too sharp, sharp enough to rip someone's throat out. It's decided. If I can't be beautiful, then nobody else can. I'll take it from everyone. I'll carve it out, peel it off, gouge out what is mine. I'll chew on it piece by piece until there's nothing left. I'll rip it from their souls and stitch it into my skin. And when all is said and done, I'll make sure the last face they see is mine. Consider it a kindness, a favor, really. If pride goeth before a fall, they should be grateful because I'll be their willing savior. I'll cure you of what ails you, my dear.